Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 19 of the Serious Football Heads podcast. As always, today I have Tom to my right. Tom, how you been?
Hey, I'm still trying to recover from last week. Started with a horrific performance by Phillip Rivers on Thursday Night Football, and it's pathetic how depressed I get after games like that. It took me a full 3 days just to shake it off. And then that brought me right into Sunday. And in all the years that I have been picking football games, and this goes, back to my 20s, I've never had a week as bad as I had this past week. 3-10. It was amazing. I opened up my Yahoo and all I saw was a string of red X's. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I got one more game than you, and that's only because of Monday night. So
yeah, and that's exactly what I was thinking too, because as soon as Monday night started, I went, you know what? Jay's going to be really happy because the Seahawks are going to win because I picked the 49ers. And sure enough, that's what it was.
it only took 5 quarters, that's all.
Yeah, every bit of 5 quarters, too. And as I texted you, I had said that kid that was kicking for the Chargers that they let go when Badgley came back was available. And 2 hours later, they signed him, Chase McLaughlin. He comes in at the end of regulation and kicks a 47-yarder to tie it up and send it into overtime. And then as he lines up in overtime, I'm thinking, that's it. This game's over. Here we go. 41 yards and one of the worst kicks I've ever seen in my life. So I felt so bad for the kid because he performed really well with the Chargers. And it's just that it wasn't his gig. He was just filling in and filling in San Francisco and taking the team into overtime and, having the weight of that undefeated season on his shoulders. And he just shanked it.
Yeah, he's also never kicked a single overtime game ever.
Yeah. Well, so few people have, really.
Yeah.
It would have been pretty cool, though, had it gone to a tie, because that's kind of what those teams deserved, because both of them played really, really well.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. That was a great game. I almost had to take 2 doses of my heart pills here. So.
Yeah, they say if you have your cardiologist on speed dial, you're a Seahawks fan.
Pretty much. This season is especially true. But how about those lines? I mean, like you said, that you texted me on Sunday. Like, I didn't know Stafford wasn't playing. I'm like, I didn't either.
I was like, what do you mean Stafford's not even dressed? I mean, I caught the game. I clicked to the game like middle of the first quarter, and he's not in the game. I'm like, oh my god, he must have gotten hurt. And then he's on the sidelines, not even dressed. I was like, what the hell is going on there? And apparently it's his back again.
Yeah. And
he's, day to day, week to week. It could be significant. I did ask my neurosurgical nurse practitioner wife what the situation was. And she, hemmed and hawed because they never like to commit without having all the information. But she said, yeah, that could be something that could be hanging around, lingering is, I think, the term she used.
Yeah.
So, last I heard, he still isn't practicing. So I don't know that it looks good for this week.
Well, if it makes you feel better, one of the teams that was supposed to win did win, and that was the Ravens.
Yes, they were the only team, I think, that was supposed to win. I mean, taking the Seahawks 49er game out of it, Packers. And those were I won those. And then the game I was up on you was I took Minnesota over Dallas.
Yep.
And but they weren't supposed to win either. So it was crazy all the way down the line.
Yep.
So what do you think about this tryout for Colin Kaepernick on Saturday?
I heard about that. I'm not opposed to it. I think he's kind of had his time served, so to speak, for being an idiot, for trying to place, something that at the forefront that doesn't need to be placed at the forefront for a sporting event,
I know we're trying not to talk about this, aren't we?
Well, it's not so much trying not to talk about it. It's just there's a time and place for you to speak your political mind and your.
No, there isn't. There isn't. It's the freedom we have. We rail about having freedom, and for a country that prides itself on freedom, we seem to have an awful lot of rules.
Well, here's the thing. I am all for free speech to the point of actually calling for violence against somebody or groups of people. But here's the thing. If you are employed and your employer says, no, you cannot do this, and you signed a contract saying you will follow the rules of the employer, you don't. There's a time and place for you to speak your mind.
But that's not in his contract.
I guarantee you, it's in some arbitrary clause that
It's
says
not.
you will follow
It's not.
the team's procedures and
The
protocols.
teams weren't even on the field until about 10 years ago for the national anthem, when the Army bought the rights to have them on the field.
I know.
So
I'm not.
there's nothing in the CBA that says you have to do anything as far as the national anthem or any kind of political activity
What I'm saying
before the game.
What I'm saying.
And if you really want to take politics out of sports, and you don't want to have anything in sports about it has to do with politics, why do we start every sporting event with the biggest political statement you can make?
What I'm trying to say is that the teams, after this started happening and they were getting the backlash, have the right to say you can't do this.
They don't have that right.
Yes, they do.
That is in the Constitution. You
They
don't
are
have
no,
they
no,
don't have
no,
that.
no, no.
Your employer
Don't argue with me about the Constitution.
Your employer cannot dictate your political views.
No, but they can say that you're not going to spread your political views at my place of employment, which I own.
No, they can't.
Yes, they can.
They can't.
The First Amendment. No. The First Amendment does not.
Supreme Court. That's gone to the Supreme Court.
No.
They can't do that. Matter of fact, the Supreme Court ruling came down many years ago that you cannot be compelled to stand for the national anthem. There are 200,000 Amish people that do not stand for the national anthem. If you're a Mormon, you don't stand for the national anthem because their religious beliefs are that you cannot put anything above God. And if you pledge allegiance to something other than God, it's against your religion. And so you don't have to do it.
And that's because the First Amendment is full of too many things: freedom of religion, freedom of speech. Now, before we get lost on this, the freedom of speech is only protecting you from the government. The NFL, the teams themselves are not the government. They can restrict your speech all you want. This is why people are having a hard time suing YouTube and Twitter and Facebook for their censorship of their personal speech, because they are not government entities. Therefore,
I've never read that in the First Amendment at all. I mean,
the
the
First
Bill of
Amendment
Rights is pretty concise. Now, there are certainly restrictions to the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment has many restrictions. All right. The Second Amendment apparently has none. The Third Amendment, though, that's the one that gets me.
Hold on.
You don't know what the Third Amendment is,
Oh,
do
no,
you?
I do. I'm
No,
pulling up the
teasing.
Constitution here.
I'm teasing you because the Third Amendment is the government cannot make you house soldiers in your house.
I know.
Okay. Which was an issue back in the Revolutionary War era.
Yep.
Because they would come into towns and just say, okay, you take these 10 guys, you take these 10 guys, you take these 10 guys. So it's in the Bill of Rights.
I know.
And it just, I always use it to lighten up and
I know what you were going for.
Because it's so ridiculous. Because, of course, that's not an issue anymore, but it's still in the Bill of Rights. And nobody's seen any reason to take it out, so it's still there. Anyway, let's get off this topic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the football side of Kaepernick. All of this political ridiculousness aside, when have they ever done this for a player, a single player?
Short of a college free agent, I've never.
No,
seen
they've
it.
never done that for anybody. I've heard of college, like Johnny Manziel, I think, did it a couple of years ago, where he held a private workout, but he did it. The league didn't set it up. He set it up and invited anybody that wanted to come. All right. So I think that's the first thing that's really weird about this. The second thing is it's on Saturday, the day before a game. Who the hell's going to go? I mean, they're going to send, their third assistant scout who's going to go and watch Kaepernick, work out.
Yep.
And thirdly, when he left the league, he was playing like crap.
Oh yeah, he was.
I mean, every time I've been involved in this discussion, I always come back to that. You know what? I don't know that he would have got a job regardless, because he just wasn't playing well. And now it's 3 years down the line and he thinks he's going to step back on the field and play. I'd be looking at the XFL if I was him, if he really wants to play.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think that he can cut it in the NFL anymore. And that's just on a physical football level. I wouldn't have brought him in And teams have brought him in to work out, over the last couple of years. He's had a couple of workouts. And just along with the baggage that he brings, his performance wasn't strong enough to warrant, signing him. So we'll see. I've heard, as of yesterday, I heard that 8 teams had committed to sending somebody. And there is a big football game, college game. Georgia and somebody is playing on Saturday. So there's a lot of scouts in town anyway. So they may drift over, watch for a few minutes, and then head out to the game. But I just think it's weird that they set this up the way they did and when they did it. And the fact that they did it at all. There's countless guys that, that came out of college that had, great college careers and didn't make it in the NFL, and they weren't invited to this. So anyway, I just think that's very weird.
No, it's actually funny that you talk about this, because I actually have a video or a live stream. I'm trying to dig it up right now. Where this guy who I tend to disagree with politically brought up Kaepernick, and I rather than attack his politics, I attacked Kaepernick's gameplay, because he brought that up as part of his thing. Seeing if I can find that here. It was. Where is that thing? Oh, here we go. It was a live stream. I'll post the link in our comments section, but I'll also send it to you here really quick in the meets. Or actually, I'll send it to you on. Yeah, I'll send it to you somewhere, either here internally or chat. There we go. It's about an hour and a half long, or about an hour long. So download it, watch it on an airplane next time you're flying. But no, Kaepernick had played so poorly going in that he just I don't know where he's honed his skills, because I haven't heard of him practicing anywhere. I haven't heard of him working out anywhere on a regular basis.
He did say that he found out about this a couple days ago. He found out about this, I think, like Monday or something, but said he's ready. He said, that's fine. I've stayed in shape and I'm ready. I went, well, good for you.
Yeah, there's a difference, though, between staying in shape and being football ready, though.
Right.
So, but all in all, I don't have a problem with them doing this at all, to be honest. It's just it's just that, it's more of a PR stunt, I think, than anything. But at the same time, if he can get signed on with the team and can prove that he's better than somebody else and become a starter again, good for him. So,
how old is he? Do you know? I'm looking it up right now.
33, 32, somewhere around there.
Anyway, he
32.
32. Okay. That, and I'm trying to think of anybody. Tommy Maddox did it. Tommy Maddox, drafted as essentially a sophomore, 20-year-old out of UCLA by the Broncos, and had a disastrous couple of years there. Was out of football for a couple of years. Came back the first time the XFL came around. Proved himself there. Then went to Pittsburgh and had a decent couple of years in Pittsburgh. But I don't think he was in his 30s when it happened. I think he was still in his 20s.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. You don't step away from the NFL for 3 years and then come back. Like I said, I'm trying to think of somebody that's ever done it, and Maddox is as close as I can get. So.
Yeah, I can't remember anybody else making like a really big comeback like that.
Gannon did it. He was out for a year. Yeah, Gannon did it. He was only out for a year. And then he came back and won, MVP. And Testaverde has done it a couple of times.
Well, Vinny Testaverde's a rare case.
He might be sitting on his couch right now saying, and teams are still calling him. So who knows? So there you go. What else happened? It was we got the Chargers going to Mexico City this week to play the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They're currently in Colorado Springs at the Air Force Academy working out.
Oh, that's right,
Trying
because
to
of high
acclimate,
altitude, isn't
yeah,
it?
to the altitude. And apparently they did not schedule a concert this week in Mexico City in the stadium, so it might be still viable.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why they do this Mexico City thing. London, I kind of understand, and
They're trying to
I
branch
guess,
out.
yeah, and I guess that there's a lot of football fans in Mexico, and there certainly are, and hopefully there'll be a lot more Charger fans in Mexico because there was a pretty large Mexican contingency that that rooted for the Chargers when they were in San Diego. But it just Mexico City is just a pit. I've had nothing but bad experiences there, and I haven't been there in 10 years now, but I certainly hope it's better off than it was the last time we were there. So there's tends to always be some sort of problem that arises.
What, are you going to that game?
No, no.
Anything else worthy in the news to talk about? Not
I
really
thought
that I'm
it was
seeing.
Tampa Bay released their, Vernon Hargraves, who was their number one pick in 2016 because of lack of effort.
And the Texans
Apparently.
claimed him.
And the Texans picked him up. I was looking for the Chargers to pick him up because that lack of effort. There's an attitude there. Apparently, he didn't get along with Bruce Arians, which people found to be quite astounding because Bruce Arians gets along with everybody. So there might be an attitude issue there. But getting cut kind of is a slap in the face, and it wakes you up. And I'm hoping that particular attitude has disappeared now because of that. So
Yeah,
we'll
I
see
see
how he
that
does.
Minshew's been benched, and that he's like, I think I proved I can be a guy in the NFL, meaning a starter, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he could. He's got to prove it. I think for a full year, but
Yeah, and I like what Houston is doing. They have an issue, and Bill O'Brien has been out and he's trying to solve that issue. They traded for Garyon Connolly from the Raiders. They just pick up Vernon Hargraves. There was somebody else that they picked up as well to help shore up their secondary because they need that kind of help.
yeah,
And they're not sitting pat like the Chargers are doing and just waiting for guys to either get better or get back. And that's really frustrating. Michael Bennett went to the Cowboys for a 7th-round draft pick. And I'm like, why couldn't the Chargers do that? We've got our 2 starting defensive tackles are hurt. Give them a 7th and get Michael Bennett in here. Now, he has since come out and said this is his last year in the league, and that's fine. He would have been a stopgap to fill in this year. We're in a position, we started in a position where we should have gone, shot the moon, went all in on trying to win a Super Bowl this season, and they didn't do that. So here they are, 4-6, and mathematically alive, but
yeah.
if they lose Monday night, and it's all over. So,
Yeah,
but that's about it. So, I can't think of anything else that
nothing that I'm seeing.
jumped out. So why don't we get to our picks for this week? Week
11.
11 of the NFL season. So, and we start tonight. We've got Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Cleveland, had a little bit of a resurgence last week. Won a very important game and looked good doing it.
Yep, Myles Garrett was wired in the wild finish. So,
and they're playing at home, so they should be pretty psyched. Pittsburgh, however, has legitimately started playing, particularly defensively, and I keep going back to Cleveland-Pittsburgh is a rivalry that you can't really put your finger on it. They tied opening game last year.
yeah.
And they always seem to give Pittsburgh fits.
Well,
And
here's the stat on that. Steelers are 33-6-1 since the Browns came back in 1999.
yeah, but they play really hard.
Oh, they do. No, I'm not saying that they don't.
And they
I
just
don't
seem to
want you
always give them
misconstrue the
fits. So,
stats.
But for me, at this point, I think Pittsburgh's defense is the strongest of any unit that's on the field there, and I'm consequently going to pick Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, we'll have our first steps, our first game changer. I'm going with the Browns.
All
I
right.
have a feeling that they're going to be riding high. That this won't push them over the edge, but I think if they can get this win, it'll help keep them going in the right direction as a team.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And almost picked Cleveland for exactly those same reasons.
Well, I mean, you got the Steelers at 5-4, who, with the way they started the season, nobody would have thought they would have been there.
Yeah.
You got the Browns at 3-6 with all the hype before the season. You would have thought it would have been flipped to reverse 6-3, but
Well, and if they take this win last week and buy into that hype, they're going to get blown out again.
yeah,
So um, until they prove that they can sustain and handle any kind of success, they're going to be in trouble. So
yep. And I'm going, and also it's home for the Browns, so
yeah. All right, I got Dallas at Detroit up next.
and I believe that what's his name Stafford's still going to be out, so that's a. But the way Dallas played last week, that could also be troublesome. Oh.
Yes.
Sorry, I just got distracted. My phone lit up. I'm like, what? I'm getting a phone call. I'm like, I don't know the number. I'm not going to worry about it. So, all right. Well, Dallas at Detroit. Is that what you got?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, yeah. I'm just going to go with Dallas on this one. I have no other input into it really. Cowboys haven't been playing what they should be playing based on the team they have, but at the same time, neither have the Lions. So
Yeah, I'm going to take Dallas as well. Detroit started the season so well. I mean, they were 3-0-1 or 4-0-1 at one point in time. And they just haven't been able to maintain it. And there's something going on. When they traded that safety to Seattle, it just signaled to me something that was really weird is going on there. I mean, they were still in the hunt, and they traded their defensive captain, who's playing great in Seattle. And there's something in the locker room or something going on
yeah, sorry.
that I think is weird. And I don't think Stafford's going to play again. So, or play this week. So I will take Dallas.
Yeah, if Stafford was playing, I'd probably take the Lions in that, but I'm not too worried about it. So
All right. We got Jacksonville at Indianapolis. Jacoby Brissett is going to play.
yep,
We got the word yesterday. So, and it's in Indianapolis. It's also, what's his name's first game back? Nick Foles, first game back with Jacksonville. Going into Indianapolis, who's been playing really well for the most part. They lost last week, but in a tight fought game, and Brissett didn't play. So Brissett's back on the field. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this one.
I know how you feel.
Nick Foles, though, coming in this situation where he hasn't been starting, hasn't been playing, and now is suddenly thrown on the field, that's when he shines.
Yes.
That's the best case scenario for Foles. And he definitely has something to prove. Having not played for Jacksonville but half a quarter and making all of that money and now getting back on the field after the way Minshew had played, he definitely has something to prove. And it's in Indianapolis. I've picked Indianapolis, but I'm now talking myself into changing that pick. I am going to do that. I'm going to take Jacksonville and change that pick.
Okay.
For all the reasons I just said.
Well, I'm going to go with the Colts because I think the Colts can pull this one off, and the Ravens win against the Texans. I believe they're going to be in a relative tie with the Texans for the leader of the AFC South. So.
Yep. And Jacksonville needs to win this game just to stay in that race.
Yep.
So that's going to be an interesting game.
So we're 2 for 3 picks so far. Where we're going
there
different.
You go. And with the way I've been picking, go buy a new house. Okay, I got Buffalo at Miami. Um, I have to say I'm pretty impressed with the way Miami's been playing lately. They've pulled it together, and they're probably going to fire Brian Flores just for winning, um, because he's screwing up their whole plan. I got a good friend who's a Dolphin fan, and he texts me every week. He goes, "We can't even lose right. What is going on?" Um, and they could end up, a couple more wins, and they'll be down at 6 or 7 in the draft order, and they have plenty of collateral if they want to move up.
Yeah, they do.
But they will have amassed all of these draft picks to replace all the talent that they let go, and then trade it all to someone else so they can move up for a quarterback. It's not a very sound philosophy, I don't think. And Buffalo, I think, was embarrassed last week, to be perfectly honest. And I think they're going to come in with a vengeance. So I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills and their defense and their superior quarterback to beat Miami.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bills as well, pretty much for everything you just said there in the last 10 seconds.
Well, then let's move on. Denver is going to Minnesota.
Oh, I'm just taking Minnesota on this one.
Yeah, me too.
I don't need to say anything else.
Brandon Allen, is that his name? The quarterback for the Broncos?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what more do we need to say?
Well, the Broncos did win last week, didn't they?
They did win last week, and he wasn't an embarrassment, but, you can't Dalvin Cook is leading the league in rushing. He's starting to become I read a statistic that he's on pace to have LaDainian Tomlinson's season in 2006.
Yeah.
And without the touchdown, he hasn't scored as many touchdowns, but yardage-wise, he's on pace for that kind of season. And, Tomlinson won the MVP that year. So he's a force to be reckoned with. So that's why I'm taking Minnesota. Okay, going on. We've got New Orleans coming off the most embarrassing loss of the last decade for them, going into Tampa Bay. I'm taking New Orleans because I just can't see them not coming out with an absolute vengeance to get the taste of that Falcon game out of their mouth. I don't know what that was all about.
They should have put in Bridgewater.
I don't know where Atlanta came from all of a sudden, and I have no idea what happened. Apparently, that was the third game this year that New Orleans hasn't scored a touchdown. And it's only happened twice before in Sean Payton's history as a head coach. And it's now 3 times this year. So I think they get things turned around. And Breeze tends to get focused after a game like that. So I'm taking New Orleans.
Yeah, I'm taking New Orleans too. That game was probably the worst game of the season for anybody. I mean, even the Bengals, who have yet to win a game. That was pretty horrible.
Yeah, it was just I kept clicking back to it, going, this isn't right. This can't be right. And sure enough, there it was. So, okay. Going to, here you go. Here's a game for the ages. The New York Jets going to the Washington Redskins.
Oh, both teams. The Redskins have scored 0 TDs in 3 straight games. First time since 1940.
There you go. And the Jets have been all over the place. I saw today that when Stafford has a QB rating over 90, they've won, and under 90, they've lost, which tells you how badly they've been playing. They did win last week against the hapless Giants, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
I didn't see much of that game.
I didn't see any of it.
Yeah, but it might have been, the Ineptitude Bowl. So I'm taking the home team. I'm going to take the Redskins just because they're the home team. There's a 1.5 spread in this game as of yesterday. I don't know if it's changed, which basically says nobody cares. So
let me pull that up here really quick. Let's see.
I will take.
I got a point.
Okay, so it's gone down a little since yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the Redskins in this and look for Dwayne Haskins to have his first NFL victory.
Good. That's what I'm looking forward to because I'm picking the Redskins as well. It it was a coin flip in its home team, so it's like okay, I'll give it to the home team on this.
Yeah, and it's like I said, I look at who's quarterbacking, how the defense, who's the head coach, and how the defense plays. And in this instance, there is no better quarterback. There's no better head coach, and defensively, I think Washington is stronger. So that's where I
Yeah.
ended up there. All right, Atlanta going to visit Carolina.
All right.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, since I have the point spread up here, I have Carolina at home as a 6 point favorite. So if that influences you at all, the Falcons have won 5 of the last 6 games against the Panthers, though. And they're going to be riding high after beating the Saints the way they did. That was an
Well,
absolute drubbing. And wasn't
and
that in New Orleans too?
yes, yeah, they went on the road, and they're
Oh,
on the road again this week. Um, Two things at play here for me. One is the way that Atlanta won last week, and the way that they played was so contrary to everything they've done all season long. You don't know if that's the aberration or if the other games were the aberration. Two, Carolina was 6 inches shy of tying up Green Bay at the end of that game
yeah.
last week. And they've got to be pretty frustrated by that. Consequently, I'm thinking that Atlanta does not play 2 weeks in a row like they played last week, and Carolina coming back with a vengeance because of the frustration over that loss. And they're at home, so I'm going to take Carolina.
I'm taking Carolina as well. I can't trust the Falcons yet. If they do this, I might actually pick them next week. So, but in all seriousness, you're right. The Panthers 6 inches away from tying that game up. The the
That was the
Packers,
second time, and that was the second time this year that happened to McCaffrey.
yeah,
They lost, I think it was to Denver, because he couldn't pick up a yard at the goal line, and which is interesting because to me in that situation, that's not McCaffrey's strength. He's
yeah,
not big enough to do that. Get the biggest guy you've got and run the ball 4 times.
yeah.
To pick up a yard. It just seems so simple, and yet nobody ever does it. They start doing all sorts of fakes and running around and yada yada. And anyway, you took Carolina as well, right?
Yeah, I'm taking Carolina as well.
Okay. All right. Then we got Houston going into Baltimore, the game of the week, as far as I can see.
Yeah, battle
Um,
of the MVP candidates: Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson.
yep. And they had a great discussion yesterday on Moving the Chains about Lamar Jackson and the inevitability of him getting hurt. And
Oh, it's only
that,
taken them 11 weeks to do that.
yeah, and they brought up that brilliant run that he had last week where he pulled that spin move,
Yeah,
and it was a fantastic run. There was no question about it. Absolutely wonderful. And Jim said, yeah. But if there had been an offensive lineman trailing that play, running at full speed when he spun and he hit him, he would have broken him in half. And it's only a matter of time before that happens. And guys are now getting used to it and ready for it. So as long as he keeps running, or as long as he keeps playing, I started the season by saying I have absolutely no faith in him at all, and he has made me a believer. I have totally come around now on Lamar Jackson. I just don't trust the durability and the longevity of it. And you look back at RG3, he had that great rookie season,
mediocre
and then
second.
he came out in his second, and he was doing okay, and then he got hurt. He got hurt in the playoff game, actually, if I remember right. And it was a brutal hit. He got helicoptered, and then while he was in the air, someone else came up and hit his knee, and you just saw the thing, pop.
Yeah,
And he was never the same player after that. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen to Jackson. It's just that when you play the game that way in this league with those assassins that are sitting back there in the defensive secondaries coming up to take you apart, it's going to happen eventually.
yeah, it is.
So, but that being said, I'm equally impressed with Deshaun Watson. And I kind of am going contrary here because logic says to pick the Ravens, because they're at home, they're on this roll, everybody's playing amazingly. And to me, that's the time that you get upset. So I'm going to take Houston in this game.
Well, we have a 4-point favorite for the home team this time, so it could come down to that last minute touchdown where they tie, but they go for two and get that extra point. You never know. I'm going to go with the Ravens at home because having watched them, I think that they're overall a better team than the Texans are. Now, not trying to take away from the most recent pickup that the Texans got, but I don't think one player is going to make their team that much better.
Yeah, and I don't know how effective he'll be at week 1 anyway. But his first, the first week with them, it's just this is one of those games for me. Like I said, logic dictates you take the Ravens. But in it just seems like there's a setup here for an upset, and so I'm going to take the Houston.
It very well could be, and like you said, it's going to be the game of the week. I'm pretty sure because the Ravens at home are not looking past the Texans. I don't think they would be because the Texans are a really hot team.
Oh yeah, they're probably geared up for them.
Yeah, and that could be the letdown. They're going to have all this energy at the beginning, and are they going to have the energy at the end of the game? That's going to be the biggest question. So. But I am going to take the Ravens in this one.
Then we've got Arizona going into San Francisco for the second time. They played them really hard in the first game.
Yeah. Well,
Arizona almost beat them, as a matter of fact. It was like 24-28 or something like that.
Yep. Cardinals over the last 9 games have won 8 of the last 9 against the 49ers. So you don't want to hold that against the Cardinals, but you don't want to give the 49ers this undue advantage because it's division opponents, and Cardinals almost took them 2 weeks ago, and then we took them last week. So,
and I think we're going to learn a lot about San Francisco this week. I think that they need to determine. We're going to see what kind of team they are, bouncing back from that loss. The undefeated season, the pressure of all that has gone away. They're still leading.
To play football.
Yeah, they're still leading their division. And they should bounce back and have a really good game if they're the championship team that they think they are.
Yep.
If they are not, then Arizona can in fact beat them. Because I've been, like I said last week, I've been impressed with Arizona.
They're very good.
They've played so much better than I thought that they would this season. And Kyler Murray's he's an incredibly accurate passer, which I think is terrific. And I'm just impressed with the way that they've played and what they've been able to put together. And over the course of the next 2 years or so, they should become a real force to be reckoned with, as long as Kyler Murray can stay on the field and stay healthy. He doesn't run the way that Jackson runs. He's got a little bit of that Russell Wilson in him too, because he'll go down, he'll get out of bounds, he won't take a hit, which is incredibly smart for somebody his size, particularly.
And just looking at the game last week for the Cardinals, they were lost by 3 on a touchdown just after the 2-minute warning by the Buccaneers. Their ensuing drive was a 3-yard run, incomplete pass, 2-yard pass, 18-yard penalty against Tampa Bay for pass interference, a negative 10-yard penalty for offensive holding, incomplete pass, that ended the game. So they almost had a chance to come back and tie that.
Yeah, that's as bad as the Chargers 2-minute drill at the end of the Raider game. But I'm going to take the 49ers, and
I had a feeling you were,
and see if they are the team that we all think they are.
Yeah. So I totally agree with you on that. I'm taking them as well because, again, after losing a game on Monday Night Football the way they did, regardless of whether Robbie Gould is back or not, I think they have the utmost respect for Chase McLaughlin. So,
and by the way, Chase McLaughlin, what did I say last week? I couldn't remember his name, but I said, there was a kid that was kicking for the Chargers that's out there. They should sign him. It was two hours later
Yeah,
they
I
signed
I do have the Facebook Messenger time log on that. So I was actually in the middle of doing a stream on our channel where I was editing the video for that week. Because I'm like, I'm
him.
gonna be sitting here for a couple hours. I'm bored. Let me do a stream on this.
So, um, all right, there we go. Okay, here we go. Cincinnati is going to Oakland.
Yeah, I'll just pen you in for the Raiders, even though you don't want to.
Yep, absolutely. And there's just nothing happening in Cincinnati. They were so decimated last week, and what did the Ravens have? 3 defensive touchdowns or just 2?
I don't.
I think it was just 2, but still, how inept can you play the game of football as they're doing in Cincinnati right now?
Here's the thing. For the season, the Bengals have allowed 173 yards of rushing per game.
Wow. Oh, and they're playing against Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, who is a running machine. So, yeah, I'm just going with the Raiders. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I hope next week we have something to talk about with Cincinnati, but total ineptitude.
And until they can win something decisively, whether they're meant to win it or not,
win it all.
Well, no. What I was gonna say is, I don't want to say if they win off of like just a bad call like the Rams did in the playoffs, but like if they go in and they just decisively handle somebody as a team, then I'll consider picking them. But if they just win because a shanked kick or something by the opposing team, that's not really a dominant performance. That's not really the Bengals winning. No, they just got lucky.
No. All right. Here's an interesting game. New England at Philadelphia.
4 of the last 5 matchups have been decided by 1 possession, including the playoffs.
And they are both coming off the bye.
Yep.
I don't know what Belichick's record coming off the bye is. I assume it's like 522-0.
Well,
Philadelphia has been playing really well, and they are playing in Philly. Carson Wentz is having a decent year. And I don't think there's any Super Bowl revenge stuff floating around back there.
New England's 3.5
for New England. Yeah. But I am going to pick New England because it's New England, and why don't you pick them? So
yeah, I can agree with you on that.
I've said before, just pick New England, and if you end up 14-2 on your New England picks, you're 14-2.
Exactly. So, don't get me wrong. I have a friend who's a huge Eagles fan, and if they were playing just about any other team this week, except for maybe a division rival, well, actually, I think the only division rival that they'd have to worry about is Dallas. So, basically, if they were playing anybody but the Patriots in Dallas, I would probably pick the Eagles this week. They're facing the Patriots, even if it's at home. The odds makers are giving the Patriots the home field advantage with a 3.5 point favorite. So, and they're the away team. So, I think it'll be a good game. This will probably be one of the best afternoon games, along with the Cardinals and 49ers. So,
yeah, I agree. What game that I don't think will be one of the best is Sunday night, Chicago going to Los Angeles Rams. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to pick the Rams because they're home and they're the better team and they should win. But they're just so inconsistent this season, and they're in danger right now of not making the playoffs, much less going back to the Super Bowl. And Chicago, well, okay, let me play really well this week, says Mitch Trubisky. And he did. And they had, I don't know how many dropped passes last week for him. And Jim Miller went off on this at some point this week because somebody was bitching about Trubisky, and he went play-by-play for like 3 series, and penalty, dropped pass, and there were 2 incomplete passes in the whole thing. So there's not a lot of cohesion with the Bears right now. And they lost to the Chargers. So how good can they be?
Well, the Chargers or the Bears started out the season 3-1, and then have lost 4 of the last 5.
Yeah, and due to their play. So
Yep.
I'm going to stick with the Rams. They've got something to prove. They've got something to. They need this win. This is a game they should win, and let's see how that works out at the end of the day.
I've already pinned you in for the next one. So
yeah, as always, Kansas City and Los Angeles in Mexico City. This should have been at the beginning of the year when people were talking about this matchup at this point in the season. This was going to be a big game, because both of these teams are supposed to be coming out of the gate like gangbusters, and they should both be like 7-2 or 7-3 at this point. And neither one is.
Yeah.
The Chargers lose that horrific game last Thursday to the Raiders, and then the Chiefs turn around and lose to the who'd they lose to? Not the Vikings last week, but they lost to
give me just a second. I'm getting it pulled up here. The Titans by 3.
Titans. Right. Okay. And now we're coming in, and the Chiefs are 6-4, and the Chargers are 4-6, and Kansas City can't stop anybody on the ground. Melvin Gordon is now starting to play like Melvin Gordon. If Rivers loses his colorblindness and stops throwing 5 interceptions a game, they've got a real chance. This has a real chance of being like a 48-45 game, because neither defense is very strong. The Chargers can't stop the run either, and I think it could be. It could be definitely take the over, whatever that number is. Take the over on this game. Mahomes threw for 466 yards last week and lost. I mean, and Rivers threw 5 interceptions. 2 of them were called back as a penalty, but he threw 5.
Well, let me add some salt to the wound here for you. Kansas City is 3.5-point favorites on the road.
Well,
I mean, the Chargers are on the road too. I mean, I get that, but yeah.
But it's only 3.5 points, and if the Kansas City defense was any better, it would be significantly higher. If the Chargers defense was any better, it would be lower. But it's only 3.5, and like I said, it's going to be a really interesting game to watch. And the Chargers aren't eliminated yet. I mean, if they win out, they'll be 10-6. They're not going to win out. They play Kansas City twice. They play Minnesota. They play Jacksonville, and they've got another game with Oakland and Denver. So
yeah,
it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
but it could. But it could.
I mean, honestly, with the way
don't know,
with the way your guys' division is playing, 10-6 could easily win your division.
Oh, 10-6 would win our division.
Heck, 9-7
we would have beat Kansas City twice. So
9-7 would win the division too, probably.
Yeah, and that's really what it's going to come down to. And if we win tonight, just like I was saying before, if they had won last Thursday, they then have the mini bye coming into Monday night, and then their bye is the next week. So in essence, they're only going to play one game in 3 weeks, which is Monday night.
Yeah.
And then they come back and they have a string of 5, and they're going to get Derwin James back. They're going to get Adrian Phillips back. They're going to have, some real of their playmakers back on the field. And I think Derwin James is going to make a huge difference when he comes back, because he's such a dynamic player, and he will come back like a heat-seeking missile. He's so anxious already. I mean, he wants to play Monday night, but they haven't activated him, so he won't be able to. And then there was talk, too, if they lose, do you bring him back at all? Why risk further injury on a season that's already lost? So that's another element of the Monday night game, and we'll see what happens with that. But if they had beaten the Raiders, then they come in and they can beat Kansas City. They are in total control of their destiny and the division. And they just didn't do it.
Yeah.
So if they can win Monday night, there'll be life in the old girl yet. But if they don't, that'll be the bow on the season. And then my hope is they don't end up 9-7, just outside the playoffs and at the 16 or 17 in the draft rating. So
either they basically win out or they lose out. That's what you want
yes,
at this point.
that's exactly what I want. That's exactly right.
Well, at least you do have a bye after this week, so you do have time to rest it up.
Yeah.
I totally forgot that the Packers and 49ers game got flexed into Sunday night Sunday night next week, which means my Seahawks. I was all stoked because I got to go to work, wear my Seahawks stuff, and I won't have to miss the game because I'll be at home watching it. Now I have to watch it while I'm at work.
Yeah.
But this week I get the bye, so I'll take it. A nice reprieve. I don't have to really focus on football in the sense of like being glued to a particular game. I can kind of hop back and forth between them all.
So there you go. All right. So we'll do this again next week, right? Yes.
Yes, next week's a good week, and then the week after it'll be by myself, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah. Like I said, just send me your picks, and we will get this all added in there.
All right.
All right, everybody, you take care. Have a great week, and hopefully your team wins. Unless it's the I didn't say who I was picking in the last one. I'm taking the Chiefs because
right.
or what I was going to say actually.
Why
not? I'm taking the chefs. The old Snickers commercial.
Yes.
So, all right, everybody, you have a great one.